Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Richard, and welcome back to the weekly watch list video sponsored by MarketSmith. As always, we're going to run through my focus list for this upcoming trading week, and I'll also talk about both the fundamentals and technicals of each of these setups. And if you do enjoy my analysis and find this helpful, leave me a like down below on this video and subscribe if you want to see more videos just like this one every single week, as well as tutorials and interviews with top traders. With that said, let's go ahead and start just with a quick situational awareness check. So let's bring up the S&P 500. Last week, a lot of stuff pulled back pretty hard. You can see we undercut last week's low here on this index. Let's go over to a daily chart. And we pulled back hard towards that 21 EMA, and many leaders kind of showed the same type of pattern where we got an initial push down and then an attempted rally late in the week. So we'll have to see what happens. Right now, things are a little bit up in the air. And of course, we've got the Fed meeting next week. So that's going to throw a lot of volatility our way in the market. So be ready for anything. Have your basically level set both to the upside and downside, and make sure you're managing risk above all else. With that said, let's dive right in with the focus list here. And let's start with PODD. So first things first, Dexcom is also kind of on my radar on my larger list, but I like the look of this weekly chart a little bit better than Dexcom's. It's closer to all-time highs, and you've got kind of a nice base forming after a nice strong push up here. We're going sideways and tight, and you can see we're right near those all-time highs, which are at about looks like 320 or so. So going back to the daily chart, we do have recent weakness. This is a failed breakout through this pivot, a short-term flag, whatever you want to call it. And then on Friday, we fall through to the downside. So not set up short-term ideally, but we're holding above that 21 EMA and holding above this low right here. So I'd love to see us kind of hold here, form out a range on a short-term time frame, and then ideally push up here on volume, breaking through this pivot once again, and ideally really getting through that 320 level and, eventually into all-time highs. So going to that 60-minute time frame, you can see that we're forming out a little bit of range here. I don't want to see this breakdown. That would be very negative. Likely we'd then test this level and maybe even the lows here since that gap up. But I love to see us, push higher, break through this to the upside, make it higher low again, and then break out once again. You could buy it either on this break or on this break, managing risk, here or at the bottom of this range. And you can see we had a nice push up from this kind of range break here, just a few days ago. So that is PODD, definitely a name on my radar. I like the story here and really strong estimates in terms of earnings and a great last quarter as well, which led to this nice gap up earnings surprise of plus 200%. That's definitely nothing to sneeze at. So that is PODD. And let's move on to the next stock, which is CRDO. So first, taking a look at this chart, it's a recent IPO, really great EPS numbers, really great quarterly numbers as well. Fund ownership is increasing, no high quality fund ownership just yet. RS is super strong and it's forming a nice kind of short-term pivot here. I love to see us hold on any weakness above this low as well as the 21 EMA. And basically I want to see it push through here on volume, ideally breaking through this pivot as well as the 1541 level. You can see we had a failed breakout here, but it was kind of short-term extended from that level. This would have been a nice spot to buy. And just quickly going over to the 60-minute time frame, you can see this is the kind of the top side range, nice upside reversal late in the week on Friday. GFS is the next name on my list. Going back to the daily chart, first things first, nice push up and basically ramp late last week, retaking that 21 EMA. So I'd love to see it kind of form out a range here, a short-term pivot, push up from that, and then you could buy it through something like this, managing risk right at the bottom of this range. This is a key level here. Sorry if you just heard my dog here. So I want to see a push through that on volume, as well as getting through that 68.47 level as well. Great quarterly numbers from this name. ON within the same type of space, a little bit wide and loose here, but I love to see it kind of tighten for a few days against that 21 EMA, form out a pivot, break through that to the upside, and you can manage risk right here. But it is a little bit more volatile, so I think I like the strength of the GFS chart a little bit more. But likewise, we've got really nice earnings reports as well as fund ownership increasing from these high quality mutual funds. So that is ON. Area within the solar space, you can see kind of a failed push up here on Friday. Not a great look, but we are holding close to that 21 EMA. So I'd love to see it tighten here and then push up higher, eventually breaking through the 2350 level and the 24 level and make its way towards the top of this range. This is going to be a key spot as well. And you can see it's basically forming a base up the right-hand side of its institutional due diligence phase. So that is ARI, really strong quarterly numbers and amazing EPS numbers for both this year and 2023. That's really why it's on my radar, as well as the relative strength off the bottom and over the past year. So that is ARI. Moving on, we've got another solar name, ENPH. You can see it's kind of flirting with this pivot here on the weekly chart. Decent close last week amid kind of the market pullback. And going over to a daily chart, you can see a nice upside reversal after this failed breakout, and maybe it will attempt another break through this pivot. And I like how it's holding that 21 EMA. If we do push up higher, you could manage your risk at either this low or the 21 EMA just below that. So that's EMPH. FSLR, which is probably the leader in the space, recently looks more negative than EMPH, but it's kind of approaching an area of confluence near 145, where we've got the 50 SMA as well as the basically 145.74 pivot. So if you're a fan of buying pullbacks and we get a nice upside reversal here, that could be a spot to start a new position. And we'll have to see what happens. But this kind of looks like the left-hand side of a base, which I would not complain about at all. If we manage to base up here and form out a nice 5-week, 6-week base, I think that would be extremely constructive. And going over to a weekly chart, you can see we're right near all-time highs. Very negative week, but volume isn't enormous. We've got a little bit of stalling volume here on this week prior. And likewise, this level is pretty key. So I'd love to see it kind of base out here, form out a base, move up, break out, and that would be a pretty good spot to enter either at that base pivot or up the right-hand side of this base at a kind of consolidation pivot. But obviously, this is one of the relative strength leaders from this year. So that is FSLR. Next up, we've got HRMY, Harmony Biosciences, and this is a biotech, so keep that in mind. We're holding that 21 EMA really nicely, showing a lot of strength amid the market pullback. A little bit of a failed breakout here on this day, but we're forming a little bit of a range here above the 21 EMA, above rising 50 and 200 SMA, and you could basically watch for a push up here on volume and ideally a breakout into new all-time highs. Great earnings here and great earnings for 2022. 2023, not much growth here, but earnings expectations and estimates are up, and you got one high quality fund just starting a position in this name. Wingstop, one of the recent earnings gap ups, a little bit volatile here, just kind of forming out a base below these levels. Nice move off that 50 SMA. So I want to see it kind of continue to build out a little bit of range, push up. You could buy it through that level or just wait for a similar spot closer to these prior highs and manage risk at these higher lows. CELH, I'd love to see it kind of continue to form out a handle here. Ideally have a nice shakeout and recovery. That would be a good spot to enter. Let that 21 EMA kind of catch up to price. Let that 50 SMA catch up to price as well. If the 50 SMA does catch up and we do get a type of shakeout here, that would definitely be an area of interest. It kind of lines up with this level as well. Obviously, that's very speculative. We'll have to see what happens. But I'd love to see, basically in general, one more pullback consolidation into that 21 EMA before an attempted move up through 118 in earnest. We'll just have to see what happens. TH right near all-time highs. I'd love to see, similar to CLH, one more pullback into that 21 EMA and then a breakout on volume, managing risk at that swing low or the moving average, and pushing through these pivots. Calix holding up really nicely compared to a lot of stocks. Nice quiet day on Friday. I'd love to see either an inside day and up here or just a little bit more consolidation pullback and basically a push up through this prior pivot, managing risk at the swing low or the 21 EMA if it does catch up to price. TMDX a little bit volatile up here, but holding up pretty well, holding that 21 EMA. So I'd love to see, range form on a lower time frame and then a continued push up here on volume and basically just a continued trend above those moving averages. So that's pretty much a run through of my watch list. Let me know your thoughts on these names. Let me know any that you think I forgot, and give me your kind of top 3 from this list that you'll be watching as well next week. Best of luck. Keep in mind, once again, that the Fed meeting is next week. That's going to cause a lot of volatility, so be ready for anything. And with that, thanks again for watching. Drop a like down below if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I'll see you guys in future videos. Take care.